Lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling. It was midnight, and for the umpteenth time, I found myself tangled in a web of desire and confusion. Josh. He was everything, a handsome, rugby player with an infectious smile that made my heart race. He was a friend's boyfriend. But while Anita was happily oblivious, I was spiraling deeper into my secret fixation. That afternoon, we met at our favorite cafe. Anita was a whirlwind, vibrant and easygoing, while I sat back, the weight of self-doubt heavy in my chest. Josh leaned closer to her, his lush laughter mingling with hers. The way his eyes lit up when he looked at her stung. Each laugh felt like a reminder that I was merely a spectator in the grand tapestry of their lives. My heart sank deeper with each moment they shared, weaving an intricate web of envy and longing. One day, we crossed paths at the local supermarket, and time seemed to slow. We locked eyes, his warm gaze pulling at something deep inside me. I could feel my heart pounding, and for a split second, the world faded away, leaving just him and me. "Hey, Sharon. You good?" he asked, that genuine concern washing over me. In that moment, I wanted to confess everything. How I felt when I was around him, how he haunted my thoughts at night. But words failed me, and instead, I forced out a weak smile. Every morning, I wake up, look in the mirror, and put on my best smile. It's my shield, my armor against the world. But behind that facade lies a storm, a tempest of unacknowledged emotions swirling violently within me. I'm living a double life, proud friend by day, restless lover by night. My feelings for Josh smolder beneath the surface, a secret that threatens to engulf me whole. It's exhausting, wearing a mask while my heart cries for authenticity. One afternoon, fate thrust me into an unexpected encounter. I walked into our favorite cafe, and there he was, Josh, sitting alone, looking up just as I entered. As we made small talk, every laugh felt like a double-edged sword. I could feel my palms sweating. But sitting across from him felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, the churning waves of desire crashing beneath, the coffee cup trembling in my hands. The air crackled with unacknowledged tension, an electric current that pulled us together and shoved us apart in the same breath. My mind raced back to the fantasies, 1,000 different scenarios playing out, each one leading to an inevitable conclusion: heartbreak. I longed to reach across the table, to touch him, yet fear held me hostage. That night, I sat surrounded by my journals, pouring my heart onto the pages. I wrote about the excitement, the hope, and then the crushing disappointment that followed. Each entry became a roller coaster of emotions, capturing fleeting moments that ignited my dreams, only to be dashed by the mundane reality of their true meanings. Why am I doing this to myself? I questioned, feeling lost between desire and despair. My heart yearned for clarity, but all it found was confusion. At a friend's party, the atmosphere vibrated with lots of dancing energy and laughter. I moved toward the balcony where the night was cool and inviting, trying to steady my racing heart. The air was crisp, brimming with the kind of magic that made everything feel heightened. It wasn't just the night, it was the electricity buzzing between him and me. Just as I leaned against the railing, lost in thought, Josh stepped out behind me. "It's nice out here," he remarked, joining me in the momentary silence. I could feel my cheeks warm as I turned to meet his gaze, which seemed to hold a universe of unspoken words. The stars glittered above us, and suddenly, everything felt charged with possibility. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding like a drum in my ears. "Can I tell you something?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly as I fought to find the courage to unveil the truth that had been eating away at me. Josh nodded, his gaze piercing into mine, and the space between us seemed to draw closer, as if the universe conspired to bring our worlds together. In that moment, my world tilted. I felt my breath hitch as our lips brushed together, soft, tentative, an electric spark lighting up the darkness. Time seemed to stretch, and for those fleeting seconds, everything felt perfect. Yet reality snapped back fiercely. We pulled away, panting in the stillness of the night, the weight of the moment heavy between us. The thrill was intoxicating, but the terror was real. What have we done? My heart raced, terrified of what came next. Later, as I lay in bed, the darkness felt suffocating. The desire thrummed in my veins, merging with fear and uncertainty. Would Josh tell Anita? The question looped in my mind like a never-ending nightmare. My heart ached at the thought of shattering our friendship and a bond that had once felt unbreakable. I felt trapped, as if every emotion threatened to crush me under its weight. Just then, my phone lit up in the dark, pulling me from my spiraling thoughts. It was a text from Josh. "Sharon, we need to talk." My heart skipped a beat. My fingers trembled as I typed back, agreeing to meet. The anticipation settled in my stomach, a mix of fear and excitement. What would he say? Would he acknowledge the kiss? I felt both drawn and terrified, ready to unravel the tangled web we had created. We met at the cafe, the warm ambience doing little to ease the tension that crackled between us. I felt exposed as Josh looked at me, his eyes filled with something I hadn't dared hope for. "I can't stop thinking about what happened," he confessed, leaning closer. My heart raced, and I felt the pull of desire wash over me again. I wanted to scream that I felt the same, that the kiss had ignited a fire within me. "Sharon, I've liked you for a long time," he admitted, his voice raw with emotion. Each word resonated within me like a heartbeat. He felt it too. The confession hung in the air, filled with untainted honesty. I didn't want to hurt Anita, but I can't pretend anymore. My breath caught in my throat, the weight of his words wrapping around us like a shroud. What would we do next? The world outside faded as I came face to face with my own want. Before I could overthink, something within me surged forward. I nodded, lost in the moment. We rushed to his flat, adrenaline surging as if we were sprinting toward an uncertain future. The thrill of breaking free from my inhibitions pulsed through me, the air charged with possibilities. The door closed behind us, sealing off the rest of the world. That night would change everything, shatter the boundaries we had known, the beginning of our reckoning, woven together with both passion and uncertainty. In the mirror's reflection, I saw the apprehension etched on my face. My heart raced at the thought of Anita finding out about Josh and me. Would she be angry? Hurt? Our bond was precious, and the idea of shattering it left a lump in my throat. The what-ifs plagued me as I replayed our friendship in my mind, every laugh we shared, every secret we spilled. My heart clenched at the thought of losing her, knowing that our lives were now intertwined in a way that could never be undone. Anita and I met at our favorite cafe, an ordinary place now loaded with tension. Her cheerful chatter faded into the background as my anxiety surged. Would I dare to bring up what had happened? I glanced at her, her smile warm and welcoming, completely unaware of the storm brewing within me. Suddenly, this simple cafe felt like a battleground, and I was armed with the truth, a truth that could change everything. As I took a deep breath, a flood of emotions rushed through me. Anita, I began, my voice shaking. "There's something I need to tell you." The words hung heavily in the air. Her expression shifted from curiosity to concern, and I could feel the weight of her attention as I continued. I confessed about my feelings for Josh, how we had kissed, and how it felt impossible to ignore the bond we had formed. I braced myself for her response, my heart pounding. The uncertainty of her reaction felt like standing on the edge of a precipice, teetering between fear and the hope of understanding. Anita's face paled, and I watched in horror as the realization sunk in. "You kissed Josh," she whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. My heart sank further. In that moment, I knew I had hurt her deeply, and the realization shattered whatever semblance of courage I had mustered. I wanted to reach out, to explain my feelings and reassure her that she meant everything to me, but the pain etched on her face said it all. It was too late. My truth had unraveled the delicate fabric of our friendship. As I stepped outside, the world felt grey and heavy. The open sky mirrored my turmoil, cloudy, laden with unspoken emotions. I breathed in deeply, trying to steady myself, but the reality of what I had done choked me. I had crossed a line, and the potential fallout loomed large. Would Anita forgive me? Would our friendship survive this? I had plunged into unknown depths, and now I could only hope my heart, and hers, could find a way to heal in the aftermath of my choices. I watched from the shadows of my own guilt as Anita sat there, completely devastated. The remnants of her relationship with Josh littered the room. Pictures, gifts, whispers of laughter that had once filled this space. Now, it was as if a funeral shroud had fallen over our friendship. The betrayal cut deeper than I had ever imagined it could. She was in excruciating pain, suffering through humiliation in silence, and I felt every ounce of it pulling me into a chasm of guilt. Every day, I woke up with the weight of guilt hanging heavily around my neck like a noose. I had betrayed Anita, my best friend, in the most painful way imaginable. I felt suffocated by my own choices. The passion I had for Josh now twisted into a source of endless sorrow. Each time I caught a glimpse of her teary eyes, I ached to reach out, to comfort her, but what could I possibly say? "I'm sorry" felt far too small for the devastation I had caused. Sitting alone in the park, the sun set in splashes of orange and pink, painting the sky beautifully while I felt nothing but grey. It was as if the world was moving on without us, without our laughter, without our shared moments. Loneliness engulfed me, wrapping around my heart like a bitter cold blanket. I wanted to scream out her name, to tell her how much I missed her, how isolating it was to be swallowed by the consequences of my actions. Yet, I remained silent, trapped in my own shame. Then, one day, everything changed. Anita spoke of leaving, of going somewhere far away to do missionary work, to heal her heart and hopefully rebuild her life. As she packed her suitcase with shaking hands, I felt my heart shatter all over again. She was running away from the pain, from the betrayal, and I was the root of it all. The realization smacked me hard, like a slap to the face. I couldn't believe I might lose her forever without a proper goodbye. I stood outside her door, heart pounding in my chest, a flood of emotions churning inside me. I wanted to say something, anything, to make her stay. "Anita, I'm so sorry," I imagined myself saying, but the words felt inadequate. What if I only made things worse? The suitcase loomed behind me, a reminder of the distance taking form between us. I took a deep breath, ready to confront my friendship's collapse, yet no words came. She had made up her mind, and all I could do was stand there. When the moment came, she walked past me, suitcase in hand, without a glance back. I was paralyzed, tears blurring my vision as I fought the urge to scream her name. I felt lost in a sea of guilt and regret, drowning in the consequences of my own desires. Part of me wanted to run after her, to scoop her into my arms and promise that I would never betray her again. But the look in her eyes told me she needed to escape, to find herself away from the wreckage we had created. In the silence that followed, I collapsed onto the floor, surrounded by memories of laughter and warmth that now felt like shards of glass digging into my heart. Loneliness wrapped around me like a vice, squeezing the breath from my chest. I sobbed quietly, each tear releasing the guilt that had become a cruel companion. I had lost my best friend, and she had lost her love, and every ounce of pain reverberated in my soul. How could I ever forgive myself? As dawn broke, painting the sky in soft pastels, I realized that I couldn't remain in this cycle of despair. I had to find a way to confront my feelings and come to terms with what I had done. Maybe one day, Anita would find it in her heart to forgive me, but until then, I vowed to rebuild my life, starting from within. The journey ahead would be painful, but it was also a path to healing. With each sunrise, I would take one small step toward recovery, no longer drowning in guilt but rising from its ashes.